The strange beach far away in the corner of the galaxy. There was a planet that many travelers ignored. The maps showed it as a dead world, silent and without life. But those maps were old, and the truth was different. On this planet, there was an ocean that stretched farther than the eye could see. Its water was not blue like Earth, but glowing silver under the twin suns. The sand was golden, soft like powder, and it sparkled as if tiny stars had fallen on the shore. It looked calm, it looked safe, but something about it was too perfect, too quiet. Zorro, a lone alien traveler, stepped onto the beach. He was tall, his skin a shade of deep blue, and his 3 eyes shined like dark crystals. His body was tired from endless travel between stars. He wanted nothing more than rest, and this strange beach seemed like the best place. He dropped his heavy pack onto the ground, stretched his long arms, and looked around. No waves broke the silence. The sea was flat like glass. No birds, no animals, no sound of life, only the warm touch of 2 suns above his head. It should have been peaceful, but the silence pressed on his chest like invisible weight. Still, Zorro smiled. Perfect place for sunbath. He whispered to himself, his voice low. He lay down on the sand, feeling the golden grains stick to his skin. The warmth of the twin suns entered his body, flowing into his bones. For the first time in many weeks, he felt his strength return. He closed his eyes, listening to the sound of his own breathing. He thought this was paradise, but behind him, hidden deep inside the jungle trees, something else was watching. The jungle stood like a wall at the edge of the beach. Its trees were tall and twisted, their leaves glowing faint green. From between the trees came a faint sound, a small buzz. It was so soft at first that Zorro thought it was only the wind, but the buzz did not stop. It grew longer, sharper, like the sound of tiny wings. Zorro opened one eye, looked around, but saw nothing. The ocean remained still, the sand sparkled, the jungle seemed quiet. He shook his head and closed his eyes again. Just the wind, he told himself. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. The suns moved higher, their heat stronger. Zorro let out a deep breath, stretching once again. But then the buzz returned, louder this time, and closer. It came from above, circling around his head like an invisible fly. He sat up quickly, his 3 eyes scanning the sky. Nothing, only empty air. The sound was gone, leaving only the heavy silence. He frowned, his mind uneasy. Traveling across galaxies had taught him one thing. Silence was dangerous. Planets that looked too peaceful often hid sharp teeth beneath the sand. But Zorro was tired, and his body begged for rest. He forced a smile, shaking away his fear. Too much imagination, he said softly, and he lay back once again, his tall body stretched on the golden shore. Still, the strange beach did not feel normal. The air was thick, heavy, almost alive. The sand seemed to shift under him, as if something beneath was moving. The ocean waves stayed frozen. No sound, no smell of salt, nothing. It was beautiful, but in a way that made the heart uneasy, as if the place was waiting, holding its breath, high above. The twin suns burned like fire. Their light made Zorro's skin glow faint blue. His crystal eyes were closed, his chest rising slowly. He wanted to believe he was safe. He wanted to believe this beach was a gift from the stars. But every time he relaxed, the faint buzzing returned, short, sharp, and hungry. And each time he sat up, the sound vanished. Zorro looked toward the jungle. Its green light shifted like eyes watching from the shadows. The trunks of the trees twisted into shapes that almost looked like faces. He stared for a long moment, his skin cold despite the suns. The buzz echoed again, this time from deep inside the trees, a swarm waiting, hiding, waiting for the right time to move. Zorro felt it in his bones, but he did not yet understand. He sighed, lying back one more time. This is paradise, he whispered again, trying to convince himself. But far in the shadows, a pair of tiny glowing eyes blinked, and then another, and another. The jungle was alive, and the strange buzzing was only the beginning. The beach looked calm from the sky, golden and bright, but underneath the silence, danger was crawling closer, and Zorro, tired and unaware, was lying right in the middle of the trap. The suns warmed his body, but the air around him carried the taste of danger. The perfect beach was not a gift, it was a stage, and the first act of the play was about to begin. The warmth of 2 suns, the twin suns, rose higher above the alien sky, their light turning the silver ocean into a mirror of fire. Zoro lay on the golden sand, his tall shadow stretching long behind him. The warmth sank into his bones, and he felt his body loosen. For the first time in a long journey across the stars, he allowed himself to breathe slowly, without fear. His blue skin soaked up the heat, glowing faintly, and his crystal eyes closed in deep comfort. He whispered to himself, "This is all I need. No more battles, no more running, just peace." The golden grains of sand clung to his arms and chest, sparkling as if they wanted to keep him. The beach seemed endless, silent, shining under the burning suns. He thought the place was paradise, but paradise never stayed pure for long. Behind the calm ocean and perfect silence, the faint buzzing returned. It was not the wind. Zoro knew this now. The sound circled him, faint at first, then strong, then gone again, like something playing a game, teasing him. He sat up with a grunt, his 3 eyes scanning the horizon. The ocean was still flat like glass. The jungle behind him stood tall and glowing, yet the sound of wings hung in the air for only a moment before vanishing. He clenched his teeth, muttering, "I am not imagining this." He stood, brushing the sand from his skin, his long arms tense. The heat from the suns made his body stronger, filling him with energy, but the silence pressed against his ears harder than before. It was the kind of silence that was not natural, the kind of silence that waited. Zoro's travels had taken him to war worlds, frozen moons, and burning deserts. He had fought machines, predators, and storms that ripped mountains apart. But this silence felt different, heavier, as if the very air was holding a secret just out of reach. The buzz returned suddenly, sharp and close. He turned his head quickly, his 3 eyes searching the sky, but nothing was there. Only empty air shimmering with heat. The sound was gone again, but this time it left a mark in his chest, a sense that something was circling, learning his rhythm, studying his body. He narrowed his eyes and whispered, "Show yourself." No answer, only the endless glare of the suns. The warmth that had felt so soothing now burned almost too hot. Zoro lowered himself back onto the sand. But his mind would not rest. The more he tried to relax, the more the buzzing echoed inside his skull, sometimes near his ear, sometimes far inside the jungle, sometimes above his head. Always close, never seen. He stretched out again, closing his eyes with effort. His breath slowed, and he forced himself to believe the warmth was safe. The twin suns beat down on him, and for a few short moments, he drifted close to sleep. Dreams touched him. Strange dreams of glowing wings and red eyes. Dreams of small creatures crawling over his body, draining his strength. He jerked awake. With a gasp, his chest rising and falling hard, sweat dripped from his blue skin, shining under the suns. The sand beneath him was warm, but his body felt colder inside. The buzzing returned once more, but now it came from many directions. It was not one sound, it was many, faint and scattered, like 100 tiny wings beating in rhythm. The jungle behind him shifted, the glowing leaves shaking though no wind was there. The sound rose, fell, and rose again, like voices whispering in a language he could not understand. Zoro stood tall, this time, his chest glowing faint with the energy of the suns, his hands clenched into fists, his 3 eyes hard. "This is no paradise," he muttered, his voice low. "This is a hunting ground." Still, the ocean remained calm, the sand sparkled, and the jungle stared back in silence. Nothing moved where his eyes searched, but in the air the wings buzzed again, closer than ever. He swiped at the empty space with his long arm, but caught only heat and light. The sound vanished, only 2 returned behind him. He spun quickly, the sand shifting under his feet, but once more he saw nothing. The jungle stood still, the ocean held its silence, the suns burned down, and yet, the feeling of eyes upon him grew stronger. Zoro lowered himself again, but this time he did not rest. He lay on the sand, his eyes half open, pretending to relax. The warmth of the twin suns covered him like a blanket, but his body was tense, ready, his skin humming with hidden energy. The buzzing grew faint once again, as if testing him, coming close, then retreating, coming close, then hiding. A game of patience, a game of shadows, Zoro thought. They are waiting for me to sleep. The suns moved higher, and the day grew hotter. The silver ocean reflected their light so strongly that it hurt to look. The golden sand burned against his skin. The air tasted thick, heavy, carrying the strange scent of something sweet. Zoro frowned at the smell. It was not the scent of flowers, nor the salt of sea. It was the scent of something alive, something with blood. But he was alone on this beach, and the silence mocked him. The buzzing returned once more, this time above his face, loud, sharp, too close to ignore. He opened all three eyes at once, snapping up, but again there was nothing, nothing but the sky burning white under the suns. The sound was gone, but his heart pounded hard. The warmth of the suns no longer felt like comfort, it felt like a trap, and the hunter, unseen, was getting closer every minute. The unseen enemy, the suns burned above, pouring endless light onto the golden beach. Zoro's tall body glowed faint blue, his skin shining under the heat. He tried to rest, but his three eyes kept opening again and again. The buzzing sound had become part of the silence, slipping in and out like a shadow. It was no longer a single sound, but many, weaving together in strange rhythm. The beach looked empty, yet the air felt crowded, heavy with unseen life. Zoro sat up, his arms pressed into the sand, his breath slow and sharp. His warrior senses screamed at him, warning that he was not alone. He turned his head toward the jungle, staring into the glowing leaves. They shifted softly, though no wind touched them. The trunks of the trees seemed to lean closer, as if listening, between the branches. Faint sparks of light blinked, then vanished. Eyes, perhaps, or tricks of the sun. Zoro's chest tightened. The buzzing returned, this time behind his ear. Sharp and close, he spun around, his arms swiping the air, but once more, there was nothing. Only heat, only silence, only the sand. His voice was low, angry. Enough of this game, but the answer came only as more buzzing, soft and mocking. Zoro rose to his full height, tall against the glare of the twin suns, his muscles tensed, his skin glowing faint as his body drank in energy. He was ready for battle, though he could not see his enemy. The sound moved around him in circles, faster and faster, like invisible hunters measuring their prey. His three eyes darted in every direction, but the sky remained empty, the ocean flat, the jungle still, the sand sparkling with false beauty. He growled deep, his voice echoing across the empty beach. "Show yourself." Then he felt it, a sharp sting against his arm, small but burning like fire. He looked down quickly and saw a tiny creature clinging to his skin. Its body was thin and long, its wings glowing faint silver as they beat fast. Its head was buried into his blue flesh, drawing blood. Blue drops glimmered on the sand, bright against the gold. Zoro roared and smacked the creature with his hand. It burst with a hiss, leaving behind smoke and a smell of acid. He stared at the mark on his arm. The wound was small, but the pain spread like poison. His skin round, it glowed faint red, burning from within. He clenched his teeth, his voice low. Not a simple insect, but before he could think more, the buzzing multiplied, from the jungle, from the air, from above his head. Dozens of faint silver lights blinked in and out of sight. The swarm had been waiting, watching, and now it had begun. One struck at his shoulder, another at his neck. Tiny stings pierced him again. Zoro swung his arms, smashing the air. He crushed one, crushed two, but more came. The sound filled his ears, loud, constant, maddening. The calm beach had turned into a battlefield of wings and stings. The perfect silence was broken, replaced with chaos. He shouted, his voice echoing across the ocean. "You think I am weak. You are wrong." His body glowed brighter as he pulled energy from the suns. A thin aura shimmered around him, crackling with blue light. He moved faster, swiping, smashing, roaring with anger. But the swarm was clever. They did not attack all at once. They circled, waiting for the right opening. Small groups struck, then retreated, each sting leaving a burning mark, each bite stealing a little strength. Zoro's chest rose heavy, his breath sharp. These were not ordinary mosquitoes. They were hunters, trained by nature to bring down even giants. He looked at the jungle, and there he saw it, deeper in the shadows, a larger glow, a figure with wings darker than the rest, bigger, stronger. It did not move, it only watched. Its eyes glowed red, its wings folded close. The leader, Zoro realized. He growled, his voice heavy with fury. "You command them." The leader did not answer. It only blinked slowly, as if amused, as if patient. The swarm buzzed louder, faster, surrounding him. The air thick with silver wings. Zoro's body glowed bright blue, but sweat dripped down his face. The bites had already drained more strength than he expected. He swung again, but the swarm scattered, then returned, each attack too quick, too sharp, too many. The beach that had seemed paradise now felt like a cage, and Zoro was trapped inside. He stepped back, his feet sinking into the hot sand. His mind raced, searching for a plan, The swarm moved closer, buzzing like a single mind. The leader still watching, glowing eyes fixed on him. The silver ocean reflected his struggle. The golden sand carried his blue blood. The twin suns blazed above, uncaring, and Zoro whispered through clenched teeth, "This is not their first hunt." The first attack. The beach that once felt like a dream now shook with buzzing wings. Zoro stood in the center, tall and glowing, his arms wide, his three eyes sharp. The swarm circled him like a living storm, silver wings flashing in the sun's light. Each beat of their wings filled the air with a maddening hum. The jungle behind them flickered with faint lights, hundreds waiting in the shadows, and far within the green glow, the leader watched, its red eyes unblinking. Zoro's chest rose heavy, the stings on his skin burning like fire. He felt the energy draining from his body, slow but steady. He growled, pressing his hand over one wound, blue blood seeping through his fingers. The sand beneath him turned dark where it touched. The swarm moved closer, tighter, their buzzing rising to a sharp pitch. It was no longer a warning, it was a signal. The first true attack was about to begin. One mosquito darted forward, striking at his arm. Zoro swiped and crushed it, its body bursting with smoke. But three more came at once, one from his back, one from his leg, one from his neck. Their stings pierced his skin, their needle mouths glowing faint as they drank. Zoro roared and spun, his arms smashing two into the sand, but the third escaped, carrying drops of blue blood into the air. The swarm screamed louder, as if celebrating the taste. Zoro staggered, his vision sharp but his body weaker. He lifted both arms, pulling energy from the suns. His skin glowed brighter, lines of light racing across his chest. With a shout he swung, his aura bursting outward in a wave. The shock of energy blasted sand into the air. Dozens of mosquitoes fell, wings broken, their bodies burning. But the swarm was endless. For every one that died, two more appeared. The leader's red eyes glimmered with cold patience. The buzzing storm crashed against him again. This time, they did not strike one by one. They came in groups, dozens darting. At once, their wings cut the air like knives, their stingers flashing. Zoro swung, smashed, burned, but they kept coming, each sting sharper, each bite pulling more strength from him. His body trembled under the weight of so many wounds. Blue blood dripped into the golden sand, painting it with bright stains. Zoro fell to one knee, panting hard. The heat of the suns that once gave him strength now felt heavy, crushing. The swarm moved closer, their circle shrinking, their buzz like laughter. He gritted his teeth, forcing himself to rise again. His voice was low, full of rage. "You will not break me." With both hands raised, he called the suns once more. The light gathered around him, sparks snapping in the air. His body became a torch, glowing blue like fire. The swarm hesitated for a breath. Then the leader lifted one wing. The signal was clear. The swarm dove as one, a storm of silver and sound. Zoro roared and struck, his body bursting with energy. Waves of light cut through the air, burning dozens. In mid-flight, their bodies fell smoking into the sand, but still more pressed forward. They struck his arms, his chest, his neck. Needles pierced, burning, draining, stealing. Zoro's roar turned into a cry of pain. He swung again and again, but his strikes grew slower. His body shook with exhaustion, his skin dimming. The swarm tightened their circle, forcing him back step by step. The ocean was behind him, the jungle before him. There was nowhere left to run. The leader's eyes glowed brighter, watching with hunger. Zoro realized the truth. This was not their first hunt. They had done this before, draining others who came here. This beach was not paradise. It was a feeding ground. Another sting pierced his side, another his leg. His strength fell, his breath ragged, but deep in his chest, fire still burned. He was a traveler, a warrior. He would not die lying down. He let out a roar that shook the air. His body burst with light once more. The sand exploded upward, waves of heat rushing across the beach. Dozens more mosquitoes fell, burning to ash. The swarm pulled back for a moment, their buzz breaking into chaos. But the leader did not move. It simply waited, knowing Zoro's power was fading. Zoro stood shaking, his body glowing weakly. His arms hung heavy, his breath slow. He looked at the swarm, still circling, still endless. He looked at the jungle, alive with hidden lights. And then his eyes locked on the leader, a giant shadow, with red eyes, wings wide, silent. Zoro whispered, his voice low and broken. "You will not have me without a fight." The swarm screamed again, 1,000 wings beating as one. They rose like a storm, ready for the next wave, and Zoro braced himself, his feet firm in the sand. The first attack had not broken him, but the battle had only just begun. This completes part for approximately 800 words, packed. The fight for rest. The golden sand shook under Zoro's feet. The silver ocean behind him shimmered like molten glass. Above, the twin suns burned hot, their light wrapping him in fire, but the swarm of alien mosquitoes pressed closer, their wings cutting the air. Their buzzing grew like thunder, filling every space, every breath, every thought. Zoro's body was trembling, his blue skin dimming, the glowing aura around him flickered like a candle in the wind. Every sting that pierced his flesh pulled more of his strength away. His arms felt heavy, his chest burned, his three eyes blurred with heat and exhaustion, yet he refused to fall. He had fought machines of steel, storms of fire, beasts of nightmare. He would not be broken by insects, no matter how clever. The swarm came in waves, dozens rushing at once. Zoro swung his long arms, smashing 3, 5, 10. Each one burst into smoke, their bodies leaving acid ash on the sand. But for everyone he crushed, more slipped through. Their stingers struck his shoulders, his legs, his chest. He roared in fury, spinning, glowing, burning. Yet the bites spread across his body like burning stars, each wound stealing life, each wound leaving him weaker. His knees bent, his body leaned. He nearly collapsed into the sand, but with a growl he forced himself up. His voice tore through the beach. I will not give you my rest. He spread his arms wide, pulling the light of the suns. Blue sparks crawled over his body, lines of fire racing across his chest. The sand under him cracked from the energy. A wave of light burst outward, smashing through the air. Dozens of mosquitoes burned, their wings turning to ash. The swarm screamed, breaking apart for a moment. Zoro staggered, dropping to one knee again. The attack had cost him. His strength drained faster than before. His skin flickered, his glow dimmed, sweat ran down his body, his breath heavy. He pressed a hand to the sand, whispering, "Just let me rest." But the jungle behind him stirred. The glowing leaves shook with hidden wings. From the shadows more silver sparks appeared. The swarm was endless. This was their world, not his. They would not let him rest. They would not let him escape. The leader stood in the shadows, larger, darker, its red eyes glowing like two burning stars. It had not moved. It had not attacked. It simply watched, waiting for Zoro to fall. The patience of a predator that had won this battle many times before. Zoro's gaze locked on those eyes, his chest heaving, his voice a growl. You wait for me to break. He spat into the sand, his blue blood mixing with gold. But I am not broken yet. The swarm screamed again, diving from every side. Zoro rose, his arms swinging, his body glowing. He smashed, he burned, he crushed. Each strike filled the air with sparks, each roar shook the sand. But the swarm was clever. They split into groups, attacking from angles. One struck at his leg, while another at his neck. One stung his back, while two darted for his face. He fought them, but more wounds opened. His body felt heavy, his vision dimmed. He stumbled back, toward the ocean. The silver water touched his heels, cool and strange. For a moment, he thought of diving in, but the water held its own secrets. It was still, too still. Not a single wave touched the shore, not a single ripple broke its mirror surface. It was not a safe escape. He could not trust it. The ocean, the jungle, the sky, all of it was part of the trap. Zoro's arms shook as he swung again. He crushed another, burned 3 more, but the bites on his chest spread red fire through his veins. His breath turned ragged, his voice hoarse. The swarm sensed his weakness, their buzzing rising like a song. They dived faster, sharper, hungrier. Zoro roared once more, summoning every drop of light from the suns. His body exploded with fire, blue flames burning around him. The sand beneath him turned black. Mosquitoes shrieked, their bodies falling in showers of smoke. For one moment the air cleared, the buzzing fell silent. Zoro stood in the center, his body glowing like a star. His chest rose and fell heavy, his legs weak. He whispered, "Just 5 minutes, just 5 minutes of rest." But the silence lasted only a breath. From the jungle, the swarm answered with a scream. Wings rose again, filling the air. The leader's eyes burned brighter. The attack was not finished. The fight for rest had only begun. The secret plant. The beach glowed under the twin suns. But the beauty was a lie. The sand was dark with blood, the air thick with smoke from broken wings. Zoro stood in the center, swaying on his feet, his tall body trembling. His glow was faint now, flickering like a dying star, yet his eyes, all three of them, burned with stubborn fire. The swarm circled him again, endless, patient. The buzzing rose and fell like a living drum. Every beat was a warning, every pause a threat. Zoro's arms hung heavy. His skin burned from dozens of stings. He could barely lift his hands, yet he refused to fall. The mosquitoes did not rush. Not now. They circled, testing him, watching, because they had a plan, and the plan was working. Each sting had not only drawn blood, it had pulled something deeper. Energy, life, light itself. Zoro could feel it, his chest dimming with every bite. The swarm was not just feeding, they were draining his power. His body grew weaker, his glow fading, and in the shadows of the jungle, the leader waited, its wings folded, its red eyes glowing. It knew the end was close. Zoro gasped, his breath sharp and shallow. His voice cracked as he muttered, "You are not simple insects." The swarm screamed in reply, the sound mocking. They darted in again, one striking his leg, another his side. He swiped weakly, crushing one, missing the others. Pain spread through his body like fire under the skin. The energy inside him flickered, dimmer and dimmer. His mind raced, searching for a way. He could not keep burning his strength. Every blast of power killed dozens, but left him weaker. Every strike slowed his movements. The swarm wanted this. They wanted him to waste himself until he collapsed. It was their secret plan, not to kill him quickly, but to bleed him slowly, to drain him until nothing remained. The buzzing thickened, the swarm pressing closer. Zoro clenched his teeth, forcing his body to move. He staggered, but raised his arms again. The suns poured light onto him, but it no longer stayed. The swarm took it, stole it with every sting. He roared, his voice shaking, "You will not have me." But deep inside, he knew the truth. They already had him trapped. The leader's eyes flashed. The swarm dived again, not all at once, but in careful groups. They struck at his back, his chest, his legs, each sting like a hook pulling his life away. Zoro screamed, his knees dropping to the sand. Blue blood spilled, soaking into the golden shore. The swarm rose again, circling, buzzing, waiting. They did not need to rush. Their plan was simple. Let him fall by himself. Zoro pressed a hand to the sand, his body shaking, his mind clouded. He whispered, "They are clever, too clever." And he thought of all the worlds he had seen, beasts with claws, machines with lasers, storms of acid rain, but never had he faced something so small, so patient, so perfect at hunting, insects that had turned into predators of giants. He realized then, this was not chance, this was design. They were built to take the strongest. The suns burned above, but their heat no longer gave him power. The swarm had learned his secret, they had tasted his energy, and now they would not stop. The leader spread its wings at last. For the first time it moved. It rose from the jungle shadows, larger than the rest, its body black, its wings glowing faint crimson. Its red eyes locked on Zoro, and the swarm screamed in unison. Their master had joined the hunt. Zoro's heart pounded, his chest glowing faint. He whispered, "So, you waited until I was weak." His teeth clenched, his arms heavy. He could barely stand, but he rose again, one last time. The swarm closed tighter, their wings filling the sky. The leader hovered above, silent, deadly, and Zoro understood the truth. The beach had never been a resting place. It was a trap, a feeding ground, and he was caught in the secret plan of creatures that ruled this paradise. Humanity's edge. The swarm screamed as one, their silver wings beating like drums of war. The air around the beach shimmered with their movement, thick and alive. The leader hovered above, its red eyes burning, its wings glowing with faint crimson light. Zoro stood below, swaying, his chest dim, his body covered in burning stings. Every breath was heavy, every step a battle. His strength was nearly gone, drained by the endless bites, but his eyes still glowed with defiance. He whispered, "I will not kneel." The swarm dived again, faster, sharper. Their stingers flashed, ready to pierce. Zoro roared and raised his arms. His glow flared one last time. A burst of blue fire. He struck, smashing a wave of them into ash. But the power faded almost instantly. His knees dropped into the sand. His arms fell heavy. The swarm circled tighter, buzzing with hunger. The leader drifted closer, wings humming like thunder. It opened its needle mouth, glowing faint red. This was the end. Then, from the sky above, a sound broke the rhythm. A hum, low and steady. Not wings, not storm. It was different, mechanical. Zorro lifted his head weakly, his eyes narrowing. Across the golden horizon, a small ship descended. It was not alien, not of his kind, it was human. The ship landed roughly on the sand, its metal legs sinking deep. The door opened with a hiss. Out stepped 3 humans in light suits, their faces pale under the twin suns. They carried packs, simple tools, not weapons of war. They looked around the beach, then froze at the sight of Zorro surrounded by the swarm. One human shouted, "What in the world?" Another raised a small cylinder, spraying into the air. A fine mist spread wide, glittering faintly in the sunlight. The effect was instant. The swarm shrieked, their wings breaking rhythm. They scattered, darting upward, fleeing from the mist. Dozens dropped, twitching in the sand. The leader shrieked louder, its red eyes burning with fury. It tried to dive, but the humans sprayed again. The mist touched its wings, and with a scream it turned and fled into the jungle. The swarm followed, their silver lights vanishing into the shadows. Silence fell across the beach once more. Zorro stared, stunned, his body trembling. The humans walked closer, one holding the spray, another kneeling by his side. The first human muttered, "Mosquitoes, everywhere we go, they follow." The second laughed nervously. "Good thing we brought repellent." They spoke in simple words, but Zorro understood the meaning. This was no weapon of energy, no great machine, just a small human invention, a spray meant to keep insects away. He forced himself to sit, his eyes wide. "You saved me," he whispered. His voice was weak, but filled with awe. The humans looked at him, their faces showing both fear and curiosity. One finally said, "We didn't save you with power, friend, only with patience." Zorro's gaze dropped to the spray can in the human's hand, so small, so ordinary, yet strong enough to scatter the swarm. A laugh escaped his lips, broken but true. "Your small inventions saved my life." The humans helped him rise, their hands steady. He leaned on them, his tall frame heavy against their smaller bodies, but they did not step back. They carried him toward their ship, their faces firm. Behind them, the jungle pulsed, with faint red light. The leader had not gone far. Its eyes still watched from the shadows, waiting. The battle was not finished, only delayed. The humans looked back nervously. One said, "We should go now." The ship door opened again, glowing. Faint. Zorro turned his head toward the jungle, his voice low, "They will return." The humans nodded, their faces pale. "But so will we," one said softly. And with that, they entered the ship, carrying Zorro with them. The engines roared, the sand shook. The silver ocean reflected the fire of their departure. The beach was left empty again, golden, shining, perfect, but the perfection was a mask. Inside the jungle, the leader spread its wings, its red eyes burning brighter. The swarm buzzed faint, waiting. Their secret plan had failed, but not forever. They would hunt again, they would wait for the next. The perfect paradise was not a gift, it was a trap, and though humans had saved Zorro today, the war between them and the unseen enemy had only just begun.